Hey everyone, I'm Rick and thanks for joining me. Today we're looking at a portable headphone amp and DAC from Muse Hifi, the M5 Ultra. And I've already made an unboxing first impression video, but today we'll be doing the full review. I'd like to thank Hifi Go for sending me this unit. This Muse M5 Ultra was sent to me at no charge and to keep, hence the paid advertising banner. Muse Hifi did not ask me to say anything specifically about this unit. All my opinions are my own. The Muse M5 Ultra is available on hifigo.com and Amazon, as of today coming in at $299. And if you search for the M5 Ultra earlier, you might have seen it on HiFiGo's website at $1,000. That was just a placeholder, that is not its retail price, and I have confirmed it is $299. So let's do a quick run through of the device before heading over to specs. The M5 Ultra has wonderful build quality. The front and back is glass, while the rest of the case is aluminum. The front glass panel has an exposed area where you can see the circuit board and some of the components. And about that glass panel, a viewer had commented on a previous video that he had issues with some companies doing a lot of work to prevent noise and then putting a glass window on the device. Well, to my understanding, most of the noise is coming in from either the power supply or data lines or components that are placed too close to one another inside of the unit. Not so much from external RF or EMI. Here in the United States, the FCC regulates devices, and if they emit too much RF energy, they won't be sold in the US. So generally speaking, if you keep your devices a few inches away from other components, you should be good. All of the buttons are on the right side of the unit, and this does make it easy for one-hand operation. On the top, you have a power button that turns the unit on and off with a long press. And once the unit is on, with a short press, we'll dim out the screen. This also locks the other buttons so you won't accidentally press them while the unit is in your pocket. Another short press will bring the screen back up. Under the power button, we have a volume up and volume down, followed by a mode button. This mode button gets you into the settings, and under the mode button, you have a pair of transport buttons. These are used for track forward, track back, pause and play, or when you're in the menu, these will select your options. So if I hit the M button, you will see that our USB starts blinking. If I hit the up button, we'll go into Bluetooth mode, back into USB mode. Another press of the mode button gets us into our gain, and we have 3 gains, high, medium, and low. Next we go into our PCM filter. I have this on filter 2, but you get 7 PCM filters. And finally, you'll see a TM. If we select up, we'll go into VT, so that's your vacuum tube mode. You'll also notice that on V2 mode, the little LEDs on the inside turn on and off, and they're more visible on and off through the vents. Now, while the menu is pretty easy to navigate, I do find 2 annoyances. The first is that when I exit the menu and I come back in, it jumps me back into the input selection. I wish it would have memory and just leave me where I was at. And where I would like this the most, if I want to switch from transistor to tube mode to see what sounds better for a track, but if I leave it alone and want to come back in, I have to scroll through all these options again. I wish it did have memory so it would stay on the last option that I used. And the second annoyance is that when I'm in tube mode and I turn the screen off, the screen does turn off, but the LEDs on the tubes don't. And this was kind of irritating as well when I was doing nighttime listening, and these little LEDs are quite a bit brighter than you think at night. It basically was lighting up my whole room. I would have loved to see those LEDs turn off when I turn the screen off as well to make it completely dark. Maybe it's something that a future firmware update can address. On the left side, at the very bottom, we have a microphone right there, and that is useful when you're using the M5 Ultra in Bluetooth mode. So you have this unit connected to your headphone and the signal's coming in from your, let's say your telephone, and you have an incoming phone call. You don't have to run across the room to get your phone. You can simply receive the call and speak into this mic and listen in from your headphones. So a nice added feature. On the bottom, we have our inputs and outputs. We have our 2 headphone outs, 3.5mm single-ended and 4.4 pentagon balanced, followed by our USB data in and our USB power in. A quick side story here, and you can skip over if you don't want to hear my rant. A few weeks ago, I was at a Dolby Atmos demonstration that was being held by a manufacturer of very high-end studio monitors. They also manufacture 3 models of very nice headphones in the $1,800 to $2,200 price point that were also there on a demo table with a couple of RME ADI 2 Pro audio interfaces. So I took my M5 Ultra with me to see what their headphones would sound like through this DAC. And I asked the sales gentleman who's working the area if I can get the 4.4mm cable. And he looked straight at me like a deer in headlights and says, "Do you mean the 3.5mm? And I said, "No, the 4.4mm, you know, the Pentagon." And he's totally lost and says, "Well, no, we don't have that." So then I ask, Well, do you mind if I get the 3.5mm? As the M5 Ultra only has a 3.5mm and a 4.4 input. And now he says, oh, we forgot that cable. So super disappointing here on two fronts. First, they only brought the 6.35mm. And second, I had actually done my homework before going to this event, and I familiarized myself with all of their studio monitors as well as their headphones. And when you purchase one of these headphones, the kit itself comes with a balanced and unbalanced cable and all the adapters. So it comes with a 4.4mm. So it's really a shame that the salesperson wasn't prepared and was completely lost. So in my eyes, the company itself loses credibility. That being said, the headphones on the RME DACs sounded wonderful. They did sound awesome. I just didn't get the opportunity to try the M5 Ultra. But wait, this story gets a little bit worse. I moved over to the listening area for their $40,000 tower monitors. And while the soundstage width and height were the largest I've ever heard to date, the depth was poor as was the layering. And the vocals were crunchy as all hell. So I asked the sales guy playing the music, what DAC are you using for playback? And he shows me a Universal Audio Apollo audio interface. Now that UA is great for recording, but for playback, it just isn't at the level to play back on a $40,000 set of speakers. It definitely wasn't a good match. So then the sales guy asked me for my opinion. Now I didn't want to be rude, so I replied as nice as possible. Look, the soundstage is great, but the vocals do sound poor, and I think it's attributed to the DAC that you have connected. And here's why I got a little bit upset. Because he comes at me with a sales gimmick. He says, well, if it sounds like this now, imagine if you have a great DAC hooked up to it. But you go to a sound demo to listen, not to imagine. I could have imagined from home. And the thing is, I started my night there in the Dolby Atmos room, and there they had their 7.2.4 setup coming in at around $30,000, and everything sounded beautiful, crystal clear, imaging was awesome, like it was a night and day difference. So I know that $40,000 tower speaker can do great, but I just didn't leave with the impression of what it really sounds like. So it really was a lost opportunity. Hopefully another day I'll be able to listen with more appropriate hardware and I'll get the full experience of those speakers. And I was going to make a video about my day there, but after that experience I decided to pass on that whole video. So that's the end of my rant. Back to the M5 Ultra. On the top, the model name in Hi-Fi Muse, custom etched my channel name on there. Yours will not have that, of course. On to specs. The key selling feature of the M5 Ultra are its tubes. And the M5 Ultra uses a pair of new old stock Raytheon JAN 6418 miniature direct heated pentode tubes. The tubes don't appear to be user replaceable and are mounted in a rubber suspension system that Muse Hi-Fi claims control microphonics and stethoscope effect. While testing, I didn't hear any kind of tube noise when I had this unit in my pocket at the gym while I was running on the treadmill. So I think that suspension really does do a good job. The DAC chip used is a single ESS ES9038 Q2M, and Hi-Fi Muse states that this chip has been specifically customized by ESS for this particular application. The battery is a 3000 mAh lithium ion that claims 10 plus hours of use, and on my testing, it definitely did hit the 10-hour mark. As for charging, it does support PD fast charging and can charge up to 100% in as little as 2 hours. The Bluetooth is handled by a Qualcomm QCC5125 and supports aptX adaptive as well as LDAC. And the range is going to vary depending on your sending device, but with my Google Pixel 8 phone, I got to 30 feet before getting any dropouts. And finally, what I believe gives this unit its bump in performance from the other DACs that I compared it with is its use of high quality clocks. Where some more affordable DACs might have a single 100 MHz clock or use a clock in an embedded chip, the M5 Ultra uses two AccuSilicon clocks, one at approximately 45 MHz to handle the 44.1 multiple files, and the other on 49 MHz to handle the 48 kHz multiple files, and to help keep jitter under control. Very cool. So how does the Muse M5 Ultra sound? Well, for its $300 asking price, I think just as a DAC, it's well worth it. In transistor mode, it has that ESS sound. Very crisp, clean, and detailed. The bass is strong and textured, the vocal range is as clear as it gets, and the highs are well extended, and I personally don't hear that glare that some people are sensitive to. I know my friend Ed over at Old Guy Hi-Fi isn't very keen of their newer ESS DAC sounds, so I'd love to hear his opinion on this DAC. Hopefully he gets a chance to try it out. But the thing that stands out the most on the M5 Ultra is its layering, imaging, and lack of background noise. And I'll touch more on this on comparisons. In its vacuum tube mode, the bass gets thicker but loses some texture. Everything gets bigger, and individual components in the music get that bloomy sound, and the clarity in the mids and highs stays intact. On this DAC, you really do get two distinctive DAC flavors, and I love them both. My preference was transistor mode for more complex tracks, and tube mode for more simple acoustic songs. So on to comparisons. I don't own any other portable DACs, and I don't have any in currently for testing. So I'll compare the M5 Ultra to a couple Headphone Amp DACs that I do have in stock. The FiiO K11 R2R and the SMSL RAW MDA 1. Both of these DACs are on loan from Apos Audio, so shout out to those guys. The FiiO is coming in at around $170, where the SMSL is coming in at around $240. Both of these slightly more affordable than the $300 Ultra. We'll start with the FiiO. The K11 R2R definitely is the most natural of the bunch. And spatially speaking, the K11 R2R gives you about the same width and depth as the SMSL and the Ultra when the Ultra is in transistor mode. Now the M5 Ultra definitely has more detail around the edges, whereas the K11 R2R is a little bit softer around the edges. Now one isn't necessarily better, it's all about your taste on this aspect. Some people might enjoy the more rounded edges of the K11 R2R. The upper treble is slightly tamer on the K11 R2R, so I think I'd call the M5 Ultra the more exciting of the two DACs. And the bass quality goes to the M5 Ultra as well. Now when we switch the M5 Ultra to tube mode, the soundstage and instrument layering definitely outclass the K11 R2R. But again, it's almost double the price. Although the bass quality now is more similar. So onto the SMSL RAW MDA 1, the detail and clarity is now closer to the M5 Ultra, although the M5 Ultra still gives you a little bit more. The bass is also very similar to the M5 Ultra when it's in transistor mode. Both will give you great bass texture. However, where the M5 Ultra wins is in that layer separation. While the soundstage width and depth are about the same, the instruments in the layers are clearly more defined with the M5 Ultra. You just find more space in between everything and every instrument is more isolated, more distinct in its own space. And the background is darker on the M5 Ultra as well. Now it's not something you'd notice if you did it back to back though. All three of these DACs are wonderful. Now when we change the M5 Ultra to tube mode, the soundstage expands to be greater than the SMSL. However, again, we do lose some of that bass texture. Honestly, I can see that the M5 Ultra to my ear is closer to an SMSL D70 Pro. It's just a level above the RAW MDA 1 and the K11 R2R. And I think I attribute a lot of that to the M5 Ultra being ran on batteries as well as having those premium clocks. Both of those things really controlling the noise and giving you a great sound. So again, as for standalone DACs, I call the M5 Ultra a winner at $300. But there's still more with the M5 Ultra. You can take the M5 Ultra anywhere you go. And it's much easier to travel with than the X-Duo XD05 Pro that I reviewed a few months back. And the M5 Ultra costs about half the price of that X-Duo, and to my ear sounds better. The one place the XD05 Pro wins is going to be on headphone output. The X-Duo definitely has more output power if you really need it. Now comparing the output power of the Muse versus the SMSL and the FiiO, with all three devices set to their high gain and volume 100% up, the SMSL came in 1 decibel quieter than the Muse, where the FiiO came in 3 decibels louder than the Muse. But all three had plenty of power for myself. However, there is one caveat. The M5 Ultra on high gain on its tube mode does get a little crunchy at about 80 on the volume. So I much prefer the Ultra in the medium gain if I'm going to crank it all the way up. Just when in tube mode. On transistor mode, it sounds great. So that's all I have on this one. I highly recommend this portable headphone amp and DAC. And I'll have a sound demo for you guys on a companion video so you can hear the difference between these two DACs and the Muse in both its transistor and its tube mode. Thanks for watching everybody, and I'll see you on the next one.